OC World is made possible by the generous contributions of the Marisla Foundation, the Keith and Judy Swain Family Foundation, Orange County Community Foundation, the Cordoba Corporation, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rick Reiff, sitting in for June Kim Lopez. Well, there's a new energy provider in town, the Orange County Power Authority. It's OC's first CCA, or Community Choice Aggregation, a non-profit cooperative that buys energy for people and businesses in member towns and cities. The concept launched in Northern California years ago, and CCAs have been steadily proliferating, touting greener and sometimes even cheaper energy than the big utilities. But there are skeptics, too, who see CCAs as little more than bureaucratic middlemen. For the Orange County Power Authority, the early going has been rough. Scathing audits, management turmoil, customer defections, and a shrinking base of member communities. So is the OC Power Authority the green energy future, or just an agency in deep trouble? Well, here with me to discuss the political leaders of the OCPA, Chairman and Fullerton Mayor Fred Young, and Vice Chair and Irvine City Council Member Kathleen Treseder. Well, thank you, both of you, for being here. Mayor, thanks for hosting us here in the council chambers of the city of Fullerton. And let's just a little bit about both of you. Mayor, before you engaged in politics, you had businesses. What were some of the businesses you ran?
I had a small percentage in a bar, a small percentage in a restaurant, and I was a jazz journalist for a very long time.
Yeah, JJ, a jazz journalist. So are you a musician as well?
No, I couldn't play if my life depended on it, but writing about it seemed to be the next best thing. So
yeah, wow. So we have a little something in common, although I can't play anything either. So I guess that's one more thing we have in common. And Kathleen, you are when you're not serving on the council, your day job, you're a climate scientist.
Yeah, I study climate change and how it affects endangered ecosystems.
So this is serving on OCP is kind of right up your alley, combining the politics and the science of climate.
Yeah, it's why I ran for office, this very thing.
Okay, we've got a lot of ground to cover here, a lot of the problems and a lot of the goals and the work that you're doing now. So I mentioned CCAs, and that's going to confuse people. So I thought, let's just show a brief 1-minute primer on, and this comes from the California Community Choice Association, that's sort of your industry group. This is what they have to say about CCAs.
The enactment of Assembly Bill 117 in 2002 enabled the creation of community choice aggregation programs in California and launched an energy revolution, introducing competition where none existed before. For the first time, communities were empowered to work together to procure their own electricity resources and provide alternatives to investor-owned utilities. Through Community Choice Aggregation, or CCA, communities can join together to pool or aggregate their electricity load in order to purchase clean energy and develop local projects and programs on behalf of their residents and businesses. Aggregators work in partnership with the region's existing investor-owned utility, or IOU, which continues to deliver power and maintain the grid. At a time when the state's energy system faces many challenges, CCAs are bringing numerous benefits to communities across California. More than 200 cities and counties in California have made the choice to implement CCA in their communities.
Kathleen, anything to add to that tutorial?
Just that I think it is the most important way that we can combat climate change and the fastest way we can do it.
Okay, and have the CCAs made an impact so far in the energy mix?
Definitely. California produces so much energy and we use so much energy that by converting to renewable energy, especially the long-standing CCEs, they have reduced greenhouse gases the equivalent of millions of cars on the road per year.
So Fred, is the idea, California has a mandate to be carbon neutral by 2045, right? And to get there, people, California's going to have to switch from mostly brown energy to green energy, right? And so, you're kind of, this is a vehicle to ask people to pay a little more to be green. Is that fair?
It is a fair assessment to make. What I equate to, and the example I give folks is, when I go to the gas station, I've got a vehicle that requires premium gas. I don't go into the gas station thinking premium is going to be the same as regular unleaded. I realize that there is a premium that I have to pay as a consumer for the benefit of that. And this is on par with that. This is the future of California's energy. A third of all Californians are served by a CCE. So I think it is important for us to recognize that this is a tool for the public, for the consumer to have choice in the sector, one that they didn't have a choice prior to CCAs coming online.
Well, the choice now is if you're in one of the communities, and let's talk about what are the communities that you cover: Irvine, Huntington Beach, Buena Park, and Fullerton. So if you're in one of those cities, you're in the CCA, but you can opt out and say, I want to stick with Edison, right? If you're in the CCA, you still get a bill from Edison every month. There's like an extra page that says, here's what you've paid for CCA, and you can choose in the CCA one of three. Explain that, Fred. What are your three choices?
We have a basic rate, which is Edison's rate. We have a mid-tier rate, and we have a 100% renewable rate.
Okay, and mid-tier is like, what, 50%, 65%?
It's 70%, thereabouts.
All right, 70%, okay. Or you can go full bore. You want all of your energy to be delivered from renewable
sources. That's correct.
Okay, and then that's, again, a little higher. Okay, so Kathleen, how does the Orange County Power Authority fit into the whole picture?
It's one of the largest CCAs now in California, and we're delivering, I think, more renewable energy than any other of the CCAs. About 90% of the energy we provide is renewable.
Okay. Now, Fred, I noticed I'm in Laguna Beach, so in Laguna Beach, I said, well, how about green energy? And so I go to Edison, and they offer something very similar to what you offer. But it's all booked up. It's fully subscribed. So, what's that about?
Well, that's what a investor-owned utility can do, right? They can close those things off and not tell the public because they don't have a fiduciary duty to do that. Their fiduciary duty is to their shareholders.
But they also have to go to green energy, right?
Oh, that's a state mandate, not their willingness to do so on their own. For us, it's our willingness to get there faster. And hopefully through our competition, we are driving them to move the needle faster as well.
Okay, so that's it. You both sound very optimistic, very excited. So let's get into the headlines, because I think most people that have heard about the Orange County Power Authority have not heard good things up until now. You've been around for, I believe it's about two plus years now, right? Okay, so as you know, I mentioned there were two audits, one by the county, one by the state, which were quite critical, a grand jury report. I'd like to focus, I thought there were some very concerning points raised in the county audit, which was done in December of 2022, and one of the lead writers on it was a gentleman named Paul Fenn, who's a highly regarded energy consultant and kind of the creator, the father of CCAs back when he was in Massachusetts. And so, I think what he said carried some weight. So let me read one of the things and have you comment. The majority of OCPA staff lack any energy market expertise. Jobs and responsibilities of staff are commingled, and that's not in line with best practices. I think the grand jury had a stunning chart that showed all the other CCAs in California, and every CEO or the person running it had at least 10 years experience, some 30 years experience in the industry. Orange County's had zero experience. And Fred, you were there. You're the only surviving, talk about change, you're the only surviving board member in this short period of time. What was going on?
Well, you are making choices that are not necessarily choices when you begin. You don't have the luxury of a talent pool when you are struggling to just get started. My first day of being sworn in, the next day was a meeting, and I had little to no knowledge of the agency when I joined as a board member. So you are playing catch up the entire time. Keep in mind, and I think the audits are very important because of the fact that they tell us as an agency and the public, where are the things that you can improve at? What are the things that you're not doing that are best practices in the industry? And how can you make some of these fundamental changes, and how quickly can you do that? So it's not a metric or a scathing report. It is a instigator to make sure that the governing board does their job, does their fiduciary duty, and make sure that the ratepayers are squared away. For the entire first year, folks may not know, we had 2 employees as an agency. Now that's the entire first year of an agency that's only 2.5 years old. 2 employees is very difficult to find where the jobs end and where they begin. They commingle constantly. So we're in year 2, now you have 4 employees. We've doubled that now, but it's just 4. So if somebody's got to answer the phone, someone's got to answer emails. There's no job criteria. We're all doing it at the same time.
How did it start like that?
I think...
I mean, remember, and in that first year, you purchased like $1 billion in energy, and you're telling me that
let me tell
you didn't even know who was answering the phone?
It is, though that $1 billion worth of energy that we purchased turned out to be a great thing. We've saved the ratepayers and the agency stunningly in great financial shape. So that $1 billion worth of energy was really well done.
And that's because you had outside
consultants that
who I assume did pretty well too.
I'm certain they did. But we did great for our ratepayers. We did great for our communities and our member agencies. And this agency, as a result of that guidance, is very strong right now fiscally.
But it still boggles my mind that you would start this, and Kathleen talked about you're the biggest, or so a huge potential here, and you hire somebody that had 0 experience in the industry, and nobody else on staff either. And that was one of the recommendations, that you need someone who really knows power to keep an eye on your consultant and you didn't have any of that. I mean, it sounds like you kind of got pushed into this job not even knowing what it was, hardly knowing anything. This doesn't sound like the way to launch a rocket.
It wouldn't be. And I suppose that the argument you're making is, factually correct to some degree. What I would push back on is simply that it's how quickly you can make changes without hurting the ratepayers. For us, no ratepayer was hurt, no community or member agency was impacted. This was just our agency, the turmoil within. Because of the fact that we have a very conscientious board, very active with our agency now, that has taken such a personal gratification in making sure that ratepayers and their communities are protected, we've been able to make these fundamental important changes very quickly. In fact, I would say in their record time. And that's important to note, because as we continue to serve our ratepayers and our member communities, we have to do so in a manner that's not only consistent with what the state guidelines are and what other well-performing CCAs are doing, but also what our goals and our visions are as well for our communities. And that's being realized right now. And I think that's the focus that we should put on, not what happened 3 years ago or a year and a half ago, because what we're doing...
You have to build confidence. You're coming and saying, folks, we've changed, or we're changing, or we're making improvements, but Kathleen, is there a credibility issue?
I think that there definitely was, up until maybe a few months ago. I will agree with that. We're a new agency now, and so I think that people are becoming more and more trusting of OCPA. We've changed the upper staff, we've changed most of the board, we've changed a lot of ways that we do things.
Well, in fact, you were rather an outspoken critic of what was going on, and now you're in the driver's seat.
We're in the colors now.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So, oh yeah, I noticed that. That's
Proudly.
all right. You've got,
Yeah, proudly.
So, what's your take on what happened? Because, for instance, the vote to oust the CEO, you voted to oust him,
Yeah.
and Fred, you abstained.
I did.
So, and so first, I'll ask you, why did you vote to oust him? And maybe it's Monday morning quarterbacking, but what would you have done if you were on the board at the beginning of things?
Well, I voted to oust him because he didn't have the experience, he didn't have the education required. His interactions with the public, I thought a lot of times were antagonistic. I was concerned about him, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. And Fred, you voted to abstain.
I did. We didn't have a member agency there. Huntington Beach, their representative, was not at the meeting, and I thought it was important when we are dealing with the job status of the CEO of the agency that all our member agencies be present.
Okay. It sounds a little like politics to me.
I'm a politician right now, so I'm certain it does sound that way. But I think inevitably, and I've told this in the media before, had Huntington Beach been there, I would have voted to release them as well.
Okay. So what are some of the changes? You said changes in staff because you still don't have a CEO. You have an interim, but you're searching for a CEO. Is something going to happen soon there? And I see you kind of nodding, and so you can answer that. And then part two, what are some of the changes that have already happened?
Yeah, I'm so excited and relieved about our new leadership. So the interim CEO, he was working with OCPA as the marketing director. And he stepped up really well. He actually has a lot of great experience with CCEs down in San Diego County, and he's been great. I really
is he going to get the job full time?
I don't know.
Okay.
We're right now hiring a headhunting firm that is going to do a very thorough search worldwide for the best qualified people, and we don't want to rush it. We have learned from recent experience not to rush the hirings. So I would like to take several months to do this.
When do you think you'll have a CEO at the Orange County?
It's hard to say, but I would like one by the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just me.
And Fred, have you hired is there anybody on staff now who really is experienced in energy, like to be that watchdog over your consultants and things?
Our CFO, Tiffany Law, is superb. In fact, probably is the best CFO of any CCA in California, dare I say the nation. And her team is superb. And because of the community trust, industry trust in her opinion, and how she goes about diligently doing her job, we've been able to really remain fiscally strong as an agency, and that's credit solely to her and her team.
Okay. Another point in Mr. Fenn's analysis in the audit was that the agency's launch brought rate increases above Southern California Edison in its default products to both commercial and residential customers. I've seen some reference that on average, Irvine ratepayers, for example, are paying $36 more a month on average than with Edison. Kathleen, are those fair? Or how do you respond to those findings?
Well, I think most of the CCEs in the state, in their 100% renewable energy package, they're a little bit more expensive, for sure, than the standard package you might get with your normal monopoly utility. But people are willing to pay that premium. The rate where the cheapest rate was a bit higher, I would have preferred not to have that. We've changed it since then. So now the basic rate is a little bit lower than what you would pay for Edison.
Okay. Fred, anything to add? Or
It's 2% lower, and that's a significant difference for customers that have businesses.
Yeah.
Let's take, for instance, a restaurant. That $150 savings that you have on the basic rate at 2%, that may be an employee, a part-time employee, maybe a server, maybe a hostess, may be the difference between opening and closing. These are real dollars that we're talking about. So the basic rate being lower than Edison at a time when Edison is increasing their rates exponentially. Look at what the cost of energy is now, not only through Edison, but our natural gas prices, water, everything utility-wise right now is just squeezing the public. And this is an opportunity for us to make sure the public, realizes savings, that they're benefits. So, I think Laguna Beach residents would appreciate a 2% savings.
Well, Laguna Beach is loaded with people who want to do green energy. So I guess that gets me to, the exodus. You're going to be down to 3 cities soon because Huntington Beach says that it's leaving. The county of Orange left. Lake Forest was going to go in and then they didn't. Yeah, Kathleen, Irvine, your vote was the pivotal vote. I mean, Irvine, it was only a 1 vote that it stayed in. I guess 2 things. Why did this happen? And Fred, I'll ask you because you've been there for the whole duration here. Why this exodus of people, and do you need to turn that around and get more members to be viable? Or can you just go along as being a little 3-city CCA?
I'll give you a simple answer to a rather complicated question. When you have an investor-owned utility, you have consistency. Board members are opaque at best. Most investor-owned utilities, most actually investor-owned companies, you don't know who the board members are. If Disney, you're not expected to. So there's a level of consistency of goals and perspectives that's involved with that. CCAs are uniquely political because it's local politicians that are appointed and elected, and as elections happen, cycles change. These elections have consequences, and folks then utilize that political power or political mandates to exercise their vision on these kinds of JPA organizations. So ours was not immune to that. In the beginning, you have certain elected officials that want to see XYZ happen, and they negotiate that along the way. It's very difficult to not be a political organization when you are a public agency and have political appointees. These
That
things
almost
are
sounds like an argument against CCAs.
It is against the political process, and it's an indictment of where our political process is as a country right now, more so than it is about CCAs. CCAs are uniquely benign in nature. It is the folks that serve governing them that weaponize that. But the concept itself is very benign. It's remarkably egalitarian. The thought of giving choice back to the customer where that didn't exist before, that's a very egalitarian principle. It's very empowering. It's the heart of capitalism.
Okay.
It is politicians that turn that and weaponize that. And I think, unfortunately, that's happened in Huntington Beach and at the county.
Kathleen, one of the things that struck me is that the loudest critics that I've heard are like our fellow Democrats who I assume are all for green energy. I mean, they are not the people you would expect to be against a CCA. Supervisor Katrina Foley, very critical. Irvine Councilman Larry Agron, very critical. State legislators Tom Umberg, David Min, Josh Newman. I would think all of these people are all for green energy. and they've been like your loudest critics. Does that hurt? Do you understand that, or what do you make of it?
Well, I was one of the loudest critics, and I'm a Democrat. Believe in climate change, want to fight it, like many of the people that you named.
But I think they seem to be saying this vehicle isn't working. We want green energy, but this authority isn't working.
The previous version of the authority, and I was one of them. They are.
You mean you were one of the critics, not one of the previous?
I was one of the critics. I think now they are holding back. They're waiting to see what the new agency is going to do because they're aligned with the mission and they wanted the mission to succeed. And I think that was why I was critical. I wanted to make sure that it worked, and I just was concerned at that point that it wasn't.
Okay.
I think they're coming around.
So Fred, as someone with a business background, is it important that you get bigger, that you stop having, more cities leave? Do you need more cities to come on? I mean, what is the game plan as you go forward?
Well, for me, it's two things. First, we have to transform the agency. We've done a remarkable job at doing that. We're in the 90th percentile in terms of all the state recommendations, all the county recommendations, all of Irvine's recommendations, and all of the grand jury recommendations. We've taken all of them and done in bullet point fashion. What are the things that they are asking, and how can we go about making sure that we implement those? And we've done that. The only thing I believe that's left is our website needs to be refreshed, and that's happening as well.
I was going to say, will there be a time soon when you can go on and actually see a rate comparison?
Absolutely.
Because I tried, and I guess if I was really a genius, I could figure it out, but I'm not. So
Well, the website now is very analog. We live in a very digital environment. So we're doing a massive makeover of that website to make sure that the information that the public needs, the information that media needs, the information that other elected officials need, is readily available.
And is that part of that? I think you just you have a contract now with a PR firm, $750,000 they're being paid to work for a few months. Is that part of what they're doing, is the website?
The website is a portion of what they're doing, along with making sure that good information gets out to the public in an orderly manner, that we combat, and we have a duty to do that, to combat misinformation that exists. And I think this firm's going to be a joint partner with us and assist us in our walk to providing a choice here.
It sounds like you're at an inflection point here, and got a big job ahead, but thanks for coming on and talking about the problems and the promise of the OCPA. And so thanks again, and thank you for watching OC World.